Most CEOs or C-suite, some of them are nuts. Like heart attack in the office the next day. And it's like, whoa, what'd you get out of that?
Right.
Morning.
We're here.
We are here.
What season is your heart in right now? It's
Change.
it's physically winter, but like internally, what's the weather for
Change.
you?
Is that a season?
Well, I think there's change or transitions in all the seasons.
In every
right?
season, sure.
Yeah.
So you're asking,
Like, is it fall? Is it winter? Is it spring or summer internally for you?
it's winter.
Yeah. Both externally and internally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
I like winter. It's crisp.
Mm-hmm.
Warmth is more easily discernible.
Mm.
Warmth is not, in the summer, warmth is kind of like heavy.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? It's, I don't want to say annoying, but in the summer, you're trying to get cool.
Yeah.
In the winter, you're trying to get warm. And so warmth is easily discernible. I don't even know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it's easy to recognize when you're hot. Like, okay, this is what it is. Winter to me feels like retreat. Is a retreat ringing a bell? I don't know. It's like a going in,
Like a hibernation. Yeah, I kind of hear you.
but also very preparatory. It feels like of like, okay, let's kind of go in, internally resource to bloom later. That's off the top what comes to mind for me.
Yeah, I see that. Winter is also quiet,
Mm-hmm.
quieter.
Yeah. Have you had this internally before? Is it familiar?
Yeah, and I think it kind of ebbs and flows with the seasons.
Yeah.
I'm a big fall winter guy.
Mm-hmm.
I like seeing the change in the leaves, and I don't know if that makes any sense. And growing up in New York, New Jersey, we had obviously snow, and there was something always really beautiful about like a fresh snow.
Mm-hmm.
Before you get in it and mess it all up and play, and which was always, I have very fond memories of that. Just the calm.
How do you replicate? Maybe not replicate, but how do you experience that in Southern California?
You don't. You drive up to Mammoth or Big Bear and or Park City, Utah.
Mm. Park City, it's beautiful there.
Park City is gorgeous.
I had an aunt who lived there for a while, and it always felt like you enter a vortex, a different dimension, because we used to go in the winter. It was like, dude, this is unreal.
Gorgeous.
Yeah. I was actually creating some content for this boxer. There's a little story he told me. So we were kind of chronologically working through his like athletic career, and he mentioned in his early 20s he got out of high school, then went to university, and he's like, man, it's so dry. He's from Germany, and he calls it. That's what he said. He's like, university is so dry, it's boring. Like, I wanted something more exciting, and he had dabbled in boxing before that, but he dropped out of university and took a job as a sparring partner to make €100 a match.
This is basically $100. It's not anything.
Yeah. Big dude, 6'3", 220. So he fights at cruiserweight and is now a WBC champ. But he spent like 15, 20 minutes on, if I hadn't gotten into that ring and sparred with pro boxers at the time, I probably wouldn't be where I am today. And so his own words, he said, it was an aha moment for me to get in the ring and not get totally destroyed. I kind of held my own. He's like, it changed the trajectory of my life. So I walked away with that. I was like, man, I think a lot of people have those. And a couple of takeaways for me was like, he went from like theory to actually trying something. And without actually getting into the ring, he wouldn't have been able to even know if this was like a path. So take a second for you, and it can be anywhere, early high school, college, up till now. What were some of your own like sparring moments where you like tried something and realized like, I got the chops to do this?
Well, before that, what I'll say is I actually disagree with you. You say you think a lot of people have that moment. I don't think enough people embrace that. Because there definitely have been several times in my life where I've been too scared to try something for fear of failure. But there's been so many more times that I have tried and failed. And really the only lesson that I ever got, especially now looking at all that in hindsight, is I got through it just fine. And the education was worth more than the end result, which is usually like you want to achieve something. Or so like, I mean, this boxer, it sounds like, and I haven't spoken to him, but it sounds like to him it was more valuable knowing that he can get in there, get the lights beat out of him, and still be okay.
Right.
And what that informed him of, what that taught him was, I could probably do this at a high level, but I'm not gonna let me try.
Yeah.
Let me find the resources, find the coach, try to find the management to get a fight, or 10 or 15 or whatever. You said he's a champ now.
Yeah.
So I don't think enough people put themselves in that situation because they're afraid of either just losing or the uncertainty. We get hung up in a lot of the minutia. Yeah. It's wise to plan for sure. Sometimes you got to just throw the plans out the window and say, I'm just going to go for it. And like whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
I can't even count how many ventures that I've tried and failed. And it just hasn't worked. It just didn't work. And never for the same reason, always different reasons.
Yeah.
And of course there's that like momentary pain. And it might not be so momentary. It might take weeks or months when you're like, man, that didn't work out, or this guy didn't work out, or why didn't I see this coming, or this guy cheated me, or but as I kind of play it back at a really high level, every single one is like, I did that, and here I am. I'm not just fine. I learned a lot.
Sure.
Because the education, the experience that you get from not winning, aka losing, you can call it that if you want. I prefer to call it not winning.
Yeah.
Because I mean, there really is a big difference. You never truly just lose. You've gained something. You've gained insight. You've gained
if you choose to mine it.
Well, and kind of like that's the key. Yeah. So, someone might try this thing and just it devastates, cripples them for the rest of their life, and they're done.
Yep.
Other people, using your words, like mine it. Like, hey, what worked? Some stuff did work. Sure, a lot of things didn't work. And the experience is like incredibly educational.
Yeah. I get the. Go ahead. Sorry.
Aside from the fact that it tells you, yeah, I got in there, I got the crap kicked out of me. I'm fine. Thank God my wits are still about me. I may have lost time and money. Both things that are, while not an endless supply, you still have more time and you can get money.
Yeah.
And you learned like a lot. I wish more people took more risks.
Take the sparring session.
Yeah. So what started off as it was actually practice for another guy. He just decided to engage in practice for another guy. And now how many sparring partners does he have?
Right. He's on the other side of that now.
It's pretty great.
Yeah. When I was talking to that boxer, it's like, because he had lived a physical life up to that point, like sports and boxing or whatever. So that I got the sense, it wasn't direct, but I got the sense that taking that risk for him was probably scary and challenging, but he was pretty risk averse in that arena. Not verse. What's the opposite? What's the word I'm looking for?
I think the word is risk unaware.
Yeah. So he was more
just,
likely to take risks in that realm because
right.
of his background. So where I'm going with this is where are you kind of like bullish on risk, and where are you a little like hesitant with risk? Or are you just kind of like bullish across the board with it?
I'm definitely more bullish than not.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with this.
No.
You know, there's a lot of people who just want to clock in, clock out, know what their task is, absolutely kill it, and then they're done, and they don't take any of that home with them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's more of the mainstream, and that's most people. And there's a real big need for that.
Sure.
Not everyone can be an entrepreneur. Not everyone can risk their money and their health. And I have employees with which my company could not function without. It's just period, the end. Like it doesn't even, nothing moves without employees. But even those people, there's certain risks that they can and should take. Just in the workplace, you know, taking decisive action. But in general, I'm more a risk taker than sometimes I'd like to be.
Mm-hmm.
I see as I'm getting older, my tolerance for risk is waning. I can't take the same risks I took 10 years ago. With a wife and 3 kids, it just...
Is that getting displaced with risk in other areas? Or no? Like mentally, spiritually? Or is it just risk is a little bit lower?
I think there's a general like risk meter.
Yeah.
And I think I'll always take more risks than the average person. And that is still decreasing.
Mm.
And I think it's just tempering your expectations. I'm taking a lot of risks now, and I generally know what to expect, what not to expect. And so I don't regret any of the risks I have taken. Yeah. And I'm mostly speaking professionally. Because they have informed a body of knowledge that I would never have otherwise.
Can you give me a map of that? Like just very high level, like what's the body of knowledge you've kind of gained from taking the risks you've taken?
That I don't think there's much I can't do.
Unpack that a little bit.
If I had unlimited resources,
mm-hmm.
I don't think there's much I can't accomplish.
Mm.
And that's not cockiness.
Yeah.
I think it's understanding that I definitely know what I'm good at.
Yep.
That's another thing. I now know a lot of things that I'm not good at.
Got it.
So I have to fill those gaps in with people who are good at it.
Sure.
You can spend your life trying to figure out a lot of things to be good at and never really find one. Or you can be conclusively informed. Hey, I'm not good at this or this or this or this. And that's fine. That's another big thing.
Yep.
Like just owning that, being okay with it.
Yep. Is that okay with you now? Have you
Yeah.
always been that way?
No. I mean, there was once upon a time when I thought I was good at everything. Very quickly found out, nope, not at all.
Yeah.
Far from it.
So it's like if I could take away the map or the body of knowledge, it's kind of underscored with like clarity.
Clarity, awareness,
Yep.
fulfillment. None of which would have happened had I not taken those risks and failed.
Yeah.
You know, over 20 companies, 17 of them.
Yep.
And that's also the way it goes.
Yeah.
That's just the way it goes.
There's on X, I've seen this version of this phrase said multiple ways, but it's something along the lines of stop trying to believe you're confident and generate evidence.
Yeah, I love that. That's great.
I paired that with the boxing story, but it was like you can sit in theory and kind of like just kind of almost fantasize that you got what it takes or you're confident, whatever. But when you generate when you generate data, let's say data, I think that is the confidence builder in itself.
Sure.
My question is,
because it's data.
Yeah.
It actually happened.
Right. Instead of you theorizing it happening or.
So you can try something and fail.
Yeah.
And then unpack why you failed. But it's all data. And like the biggest like foundational piece of data is that you tried.
Yeah.
And you're still there.
Yep. I think on both sides too, right? So you generate, let's say you didn't, to use your words, you didn't win. But on the other side, if you do win, it's still an exponentially like larger event or impact because it actually happened.
Sure.
But doesn't come until you like actually take the sparring session. So my question is why are so many of us, including myself at times, stuck trying to like think we're confident versus just generating the evidence?
I think like anything, like we're just overwhelmed. It is like a data attack, information overload. And if you come up with a great idea and you Google it, you're probably likely to find 20 reasons not to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Than to just do it.
Yeah.
For example, simple example. I want to go out on a date with my wife. I'm Yelping restaurants.
Yep.
I'm the kind of person, and we all do this. And I see a couple of bad reviews and I'm like, that's it.
Next.
And it's like, well, go try it and find out for yourself. You could be one of the many good reviews.
Yeah.
So I don't look at reviews anymore. Unless it's like 1 or 2 stars. Like a lot of people, the people have spoken.
Yeah.
But no, it's like you can't judge a restaurant's food by the service. So if that's why you got the 1 or 2 stars, and that's something they can improve on, but
Yeah.
have the experience for yourself. Like actually do it. Generate that data. I mean, there's plenty of restaurants that I love that are great, that are not as highly rated as other ones.
Yeah.
I've never had a problem there.
Right.
I've only had good experiences there. So that generates the confidence for me to go back.
Yep.
And so you can never just sit there and analyze the confidence you have or want to try something new or to start something or to take control of your life, other than to try. Worst case scenario, you fail, you get back up. You're going to be just fine. Because life is a series of getting back up. That's all it is. And at best, what you pull out of it is not the win necessarily. That's great, but I did it. And I was fine.
I love the Yelp example of like, because that's your own experience. Like if you go to X restaurant, great experience, great food, but then your friend says that restaurant is trash. It doesn't really penetrate your direct experience.
It contradicts it.
And so let's take that and stretch it out to, let's call it faith, spirituality, inner development. I think direct experience is the gold. I get the sense, and you can disagree with me here, that a lot of us are outsourcing like our divinity to other people or groups or even people at the cost of direct experience.
100%. I could not agree more.
Why?
Why do we do that?
Yeah.
Because we're too afraid to experience it for ourselves.
Is it the fear, or is it we don't even know how to go about it?
I'm sure that stuff plays into it.
Yeah.
But like going back to your example, like I talk to lots of small business owners, and their experiences are really bad being a business owner. And a lot of the times I know exactly what they're talking about, but that's not my only experience. My other experience is that's also very rewarding.
Sure.
And not only because I've just won, I've also lost a lot of times.
Yeah.
So I hear you. Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it's tricky. Yeah, you're going to deal with betrayal, lawsuits, endless sleepless nights, like more than I can count.
Yeah.
7 days a week. But it's not just that. Like, there's a lot of good stuff too. So our experiences, there are similarities, but there's also differences. So whereas one person, and I've heard this before, I'll never like start another business again. I have no desire. And it's like, why not? Your entire experience is only bad.
Right.
What did you learn from it?
Yeah.
How can that translate into another one? In terms of outsourcing, I think it's particularly important that we don't outsource any experience from anyone. People are terrified to get into a relationship because of all the horror stories.
Sure.
There's so many horror stories with incredible endings.
Yeah.
And
I mean, that's a thread throughout all the old stories and the mythical stories of like, there's a lot of pain and challenge, but it's also very beautiful.
And the beauty is the pain and the challenge.
Yeah.
It's what refines you.
Yeah.
It's what makes you better. It's what improves upon your experiences and your perception of the world and people.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of quotes. I'm going to butcher this, but I don't know if you force me to try to find it, I will. But I mean, there's many variations. Like people do bad things, but don't stop being kind.
Yeah.
People abuse trust, but don't stop trusting people. It's the same type of thing.
Yeah.
If you predicate your growth based on only your negative experiences, then you're done. You're cooked. It's over. What's the point anymore?
Yeah. You said earlier we're something along the lines of we're afraid to confront direct experience or something like that. Is that what you said?
We outsource it because we're afraid to experience it ourselves.
And so we have all these like divinity substitutes to keep that at bay.
I mean, you're talking about like a relationship with God specifically.
That, and I guess, yeah, that, and you mentioned like getting into relationships with a human being. That too, like where are we substituting direct experience with fear or like delusion or avoidance or whatever, thinking that the alternative options or paths will do it. My curiosity is like, do you think most or many know that? Or is it just like, it's the default?
Probably a combination of both.
Yeah.
Probably a combination of both. I think I've heard a lot of such experiences where if we're talking about spirituality specifically,
Sure.
you know, there's something in us that we're always grasping for.
Yeah.
And the easiest things to grasp for are the things that are around us. Relationships, wealth, stature, accumulation, money, power, respect, substances, especially when we're hurting or scared or lonely. try to pour into these things more, only to find none of that stuff can fill this void that we have inside of us.
Yeah.
We keep coming back like to this quote, C.S. Lewis, if I find in myself desires which nothing in this world can satisfy, I can only conclude I was not made for this world.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
Yep.
He's like genius level, gamma level genius, that guy. Way smarter than me. Makes sense to me.
Gamma level. I like that.
Yeah, I just made that up.
That's good.
Yeah. It sounded good. But like, I don't even have to challenge that. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of desires. This doesn't check it. This doesn't check it. This doesn't check it. The cars, the money, none of it checks it. Still empty without it. There must be something else. And so going back to the spiritual aspect of it, I'm not sure how we got on this topic, but I'm totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
Then we're going to grasp for other things to fill it.
Yeah.
And we're probably going to overload on those things until we're like, ugh, none of this does it.
Yeah.
So what else is there?
Yeah, there's something called depth psychology. It's just a form in the psychological model, but it's often said that like whatever can be explained is not the mystery.
Whatever
can be explained,
it's not the mystery.
Right. And in depth psychology, they draw you into a larger life with the divine, however you may define that. And so it's the art of paradox, of being able to like hold the nasty parts and the beautiful parts without trying to explain it. And I think when you mention gamma level, I've seen studies on priests, monks, and nuns, like they get plugged up to brain scan machines, and their meditative states are literally gamma level. So that's actually a brainwave state. So there's gamma, alpha, theta, all that, and the gamma level is like you're actually having lots of activity at a very, very tranquil state, which is interesting. Because these mystical people are, they're obviously not asleep. They may seem like tranquil and like calm, but they're like alive in a way that is probably the closest thing on earth to God or a divine figure.
No, that doesn't surprise me at all. We've talked about this before with regards to stillness.
Yeah.
And stillness does not mean dead.
Right.
Or some of the most in tune people with God are the most still.
Mm-hmm.
And stillness gives you a real foothold into the present.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're still, I mean, like you're not thinking about the next 20 minutes or the next 10 years. Every second is maximized.
Yeah.
And your interaction with that, I mean, that doesn't surprise me at all. No, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
That there's a lot of, in that stillness, there's a lot happening.
Right.
But you're like,
it's like Jesus in the boat.
Like slowing down time almost.
Yeah.
To the second at hand. And engaging with it and, absorbing it,
mm-hmm.
And that translates into some crazy stuff like when you're playing with your kids, for example.
Yeah.
Like being present for 14 minutes is like an eternity if you're fully present. It's crazy.
So you know what that's like.
I've never gone anywhere close. Not at all.
You can't explain it like that and not at least tasted it though.
No, I can understand the polar opposite.
Of what it's not.
Yes.
Oh, so that's how you're approaching it.
Well, I'm striving for what I've been really bad at for the majority of my life. Living at 110 miles an hour,
yeah.
Constant go, emails, meetings, And I'm like there, but I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not really ever fully there for any one thing because I have so much else going on. This is a terrible way to live.
And you're unlearning that, it feels like.
I am a CEO of over 400 people.
Yeah.
I naturally have a lot going on. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
There's meetings and events and just thousands of things going on. That is not optimized living. I know. My health has told me. The opposite, what I just described.
Yeah.
12 minutes of playtime. A conversation with your wife. That lasts 4.5 minutes.
Yeah.
But you're there, locked, in tune, engaging every word, every thought, every breath for 3 minutes, 7, whatever it is.
It's like micro mindfulness moments.
Slowing down everything around you, eternity and beyond, to just that conversation. I envy those people. That's the people I'm striving for, and those people do exist, and they're generally very, very highly emotionally aware, very spiritual people. That they understand that. It's like that verse, be still and know that I am God. I mean, that's a powerful verse. There's a lot of powerful scripture, of course, but be still and know that I am God. Be still.
That comes first.
Yeah, and it's almost like, to paraphrase, be still and you can know that I am God. So you can enter into an encounter with the divine, not by being busy, overwhelmed. You can have that encounter by being still. Stillness. Not quite slowness. Not inactivity, no activity. Not retreat. Still. Just still. Yeah, I get fired up about this stuff because I know what I want, which is that.
Yeah.
Nowhere near it. But I'm like, yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah.
Because I'm living on this side of the spectrum.
Sure.
And that's here.
Yeah.
I know what this one feels like.
Yeah.
No bueno.
Yeah.
This one's like, huh.
Yeah, I want to applaud you for one, because you're talking about this on air, but you're actually doing it with me right now.
Probably not as good as I can.
But you're doing it. Like your phone is somewhere. You haven't dismissed from this.
I hate that stupid phone.
So like I just
Lock
want
that phone in a freezer, man.
I want to put you up on that.
I love when I forget my phone at home. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I cannot go on with the rest of my day, so I got to go get it back. But that 6 or 3 or 7 minutes is like,
yeah. But like, kudos to you. You mentioned earlier you're super busy, people watching, you run companies, all this stuff. And, to do this a couple times a week, I think is an active meditation. It's a form of stillness inside of a container of conversation. So you're doing it.
And I think that's why I enjoy it so much.
Yeah.
But the topic of stillness is not one that can be spoken of enough.
Sure.
Especially in today's day and age.
Yeah. And I think going back to our opening, I think stillness has a very close relationship to direct experience. You can study it, you can hear someone else talk about it, but until you experience stillness, it's like you're looking inside of a car with the keys locked in, trying to drive it. It's like it doesn't work.
Sure.
And so where I'm going with this was, I'll make it short, but there's a story out of like the Eastern philosophy. There's this monk. He started out living a lavish lifestyle. He was going to be the next king. Had, a palace with his family, and his parents wanted him to kind of take over when his father died. I don't know. I think there's more to life than this. So he leaves the palace, sees like homeless people, encounters drugs, just encounters the world. So he leaves, becomes an ascetic, practices for 6 years, starving himself, praying every day, almost dies. And realizes like, yeah, this actually isn't it either. So kind of like to take away the story is like a life of indulgence and the life of like extreme asceticism. And he comes back to say, it's like, he actually almost died. And this lady gave him some milk and honey. He took it and was like, yeah, it's between these two where I become awakened, essentially. So it's typically referred to as the middle way of like not indulgence and not extreme like martyrdom or asceticism. And I think you're in a unique position to be where you are, company of 400 plus employees, and still not fighting, but wanting to have that form of stillness while being involved with the world. I think that's an archetype for a lot more people than someone who's just either completely indulgent or like the people in the mountains, just completely renounced. Do you see yourself as that? As an archetype, like an example, like, okay, I'm in the world, obviously, doing things. I'm also trying to hold a version of stillness while I walk through.
I'm doing a really bad job, but I know I'm doing a bad job. Versus, I don't know, week, month, year ago, I didn't know I was doing a bad job. And it's very, very important for me to understand that. And I know there's people watching who are like, yeah, I get that. Because the best moments in life come from the stillness of being present. Mm-hmm. There's such a stillness in being in the present moment by moment by moment without constantly reaching for the next worry, the next problem, the next television, whatever.
Yeah.
And I know it now. And so my goal more than ever is to be more still.
Sure.
So I would say I'm doing a good job because I recognize it.
Yeah.
And that's it. And that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm cool with that.
Yep.
I'm really good with that. Because there will be people that will live and die, never understand or experience the necessity of what that stillness can do.
Sure.
For their lives, for their relationships, for their kids, for their siblings, for stillness is so important.
Do you think people like CEOs and execs like today, this can be, you can draw from, your network or just from people you see. Do you think this topic is on the radar generally, or is it more just like, I'm just going to keep running at 100?
From my own experience and from the people I've spoken to, I feel like any flirtation with the idea of stillness to an executive only comes when there's some kind of a health scare. This is just from my experience. And not only like me too. Point I'm trying to make is most CEOs or C-suite that I've ever experienced have only communicated that, I got to slow down. And that's literally the phrase that they say. When there's some kind of a health consequence.
Yeah.
And even then, some of them are nuts.
Yeah.
Like heart attack in the office the next day. And it's like, whoa, did you not, what'd you get out of that?
Right.
Like, so no, like again, generally, I rub elbows with lots of CEOs. And I just think that the way society and capitalism has conditioned us, mostly for the good, is to be high performance, high achieving, go, 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 problem solve, build, 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 grow, grow, grow. And very little of that is predicated on stillness or slowing down. Other than maybe to reflect.
Yeah.
Other than the time it takes to analyze numbers or charts, what's working, what's not. But that's not really stillness because it is an activity. It's an engaging activity. It's a high contact activity. You're just looking at numbers and making decisions is a high contact sport.
Yep.
Right? And so, no, and it's sad. And I don't want to see people burn out. I also have met several CEOs and know several CEOs who have completely burned their families. I'm talking about figuratively. Scorched relationships with their kids, their wives, and don't even know it. I actually see it all the time, and I'm like, I'm not any kind of a model because I learned the hard way myself. But in looking back at that, the biggest regret was that I let it happen. It is something I kind of regret, but don't, because I would have not have learned otherwise. But if I can go back and change it so that that pain is not there, of course, for everyone involved. That being said, I still run into people and I'm like, I don't even know how to communicate it to them because I don't feel like it's my place.
Sure.
But I just look at that and I'm like, yo, I know where that's headed.
Yeah. It's like the Titanic headed for the iceberg.
No, it has hit the iceberg. It's like that. Those are the sad ones.
I forget where, but it was on this topic of burnout, both, professionally or even personally. And it was like, a lot of these people are arguing whether we're going to have steak or lobster on the Titanic and we're sinking. And it's like, dude, it just blew my mind because I'm like, dude, it's
but
so
that's like
accurate.
literally everyday life.
Right.
It doesn't matter what you're going to have.
But my point is the massive like distractiveness of like the metaphorical steak or lobster, while like some huge iceberg or fire is like literally taking you down.
I see it all the time. And most of all of these podcasts, I come from a perspective where I'm speaking to my younger self. So I'm not even like, if there's just one person that hears this, I'm literally like, how would I speak to myself and in the coming years, my children?
Right.
But it would be slow down. The empire will be built or not, with or without you. Like, what's gonna happen is gonna happen.
Yeah.
You don't need to sacrifice your life for it. Because at the end of the day, when you accomplish all of it and all the glitz and all the glamour, and now you're choosing between steak or lobster, but the ship's going down, like all that represents, I mean, you're telling the story. They're on the Titanic and they're debating between steak and lobster while it's going down. All that represents is everything you've achieved. Yeah, you crushed it. You got it all. Because there's another part of our podcast that talks to go out and try.
Sure.
So we're all about that. Just make sure you're not debating between steak and lobster while the whole ship's going down.
Right.
There's no point to that. And there's no arguing that steak and lobster represents all the success that you ever thought you can enjoy. Yeah, you'll get it. Hopefully it's just not on a ship that's going down. That's the purpose of all this. That was me.
What's your steak and lobster right now?
Look, I'm blessed beyond measure. All right. I am in life, in my marriage, in my businesses, in friendships. I got in, I sparred, I got the crap kicked out of me, and I'm still here.
Yep.
And all of those things are better than they've ever been. And by what measure is irrelevant?
Yeah.
They are just better than they've ever been.
We'll close on this and let you reflect, but there's something called post-traumatic growth. People typically know the phrase post-traumatic stress disorder.
Sure.
It's real. It's a thing, definitely. But there's also post-traumatic growth. And I think that's where I'm most curious in my academic pursuits of like, how does a same group or two people encounter very similar or even exact situations and one stays stuck, the other actually becomes more resilient, more open, and transcends the pain and turns it into some alchemical process of like almost magic. I know that's kind of cheesy, but you mentioned everything is better. But you've probably had the toughest 18 months, 2 years of your life based on our conversations outside this podcast. But you sit here and say, and I actually believe you, that all those things are better even though really hard things have happened.
I think that's the eternal lesson is like all the good stuff comes from the hard and the pain. You can't avoid it. There's a lot of things you could do and a lot of ways to learn faster. And if you can, awesome. I think that's what it boils down to basically. What's the difference between the person who grows and the person who doesn't?
Learn faster, you said?
Yeah. I think on a base level, it's really about resources. Because some people, they don't have anyone.
Yeah.
They don't have anyone to tell them. They don't have anyone to tell them. And they don't know. They just don't know. Some people think life is supposed to be easy. They don't have anyone telling them, hey, it's not that easy, and that's okay. It could just be that simple. Some people don't have the friends that are like, hey, you got to shake something up because you can't keep going like this.
Yeah.
They just don't.
Yeah.
That's not their fault. That's not their fault. That's my job now, whenever I can, wherever someone will listen, to tell them, hey, pain is okay. We can get through it. We will get through it. And I honestly, I'm not the professional you are, but I think that's the only difference. I think.
I like, excuse me, the learning faster is a big piece. I mean, we could spend a whole episode there, but learning faster in that realm is gold. And I think that's largely, whether that's friend groups or wise people around you, or if it's professional or a combination of both, probably better a combo of both. That's it.
Resources.
Yeah.
Those are all just resources.
Yeah.
I've been very fortunate and very blessed to have access to a lot of resources.
Yep.
There are people worse and better than me that have access to more resources. And in the opposite direction as well.
Yep.
And so, yeah.
Appreciate you, brother. Thank you for opening up.
Thanks for being a resource.